Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. Today we have a John Deere with a Briggs V-twin that has some broken internal parts in it. I bought this machine and the guy had slapped the engine back together but gave me a bag of broken parts. So today we are going to check it out, see what's going on with it, see if this engine can be saved or at least what happened to it. So let's jump right to it. I'll show you guys the backstory and then we're going to start tearing this engine apart. Now this is the machine that I had planned on using, that V-twin that we fixed a few videos back, so if you guys haven't, you can check that video out. But yeah, basically the backstory was on this machine, the guy got this from his brother. It was running when it was parked and he had a Cub Cadet at the house. He ended up picking up both of those mowers, brought him back to his house to try to repair. This one, he said he was spraying starting fluid into it and he finally got it to crank up. He said it revved up really high and then he heard some noise in the bottom end. Basically he took the engine off, opened up the sump and took out the pieces that were broken, decided that it was too much for him, and then put it back together, or slapped it back together and listed it for sale. So I picked up this machine for 80 bucks. I do have the mowing deck for it and this will be another project that we're going to do, but today we are going to pull this into the shop, get the engine pulled off from here, open it up, see what's going on, see if it can be revived, and take it from there. So let's get going. All right, and here is a better look. He couldn't find the air filter cover for this, or the air filter. I just assumed this was going to be a parts engine. I don't know if this thing is going to be savable or not. We're going to find out. Mostly everything is disconnected for me to take this off today. He pretty much just slapped this engine back on here, connected a couple of things, and left basically everything loose. Now, in that bag of parts, I just emptied it into this container. To me, it looks like we have a broken camshaft. We have a sump gasket that's not in there. I did check the dipstick on here and it's totally empty, which would make sense if the crank seal is not in there. And then the rest of these all look like parts of the governor. Now, he did say that he was turning this over and turning it over. He kept hitting it with ether. And he said he got it to kick over a couple times and it started rev to the moon. He heard a bunch of clanking in there and then that's when he started tearing into it. So we shall see how bad it really is. Now, as far as what I need to disconnect to get this off from the tractor, we just need to disconnect the fuel hose that goes to the machine, this breather line right here. Our throttle has already been taken off. The PTO underneath is already finger loose, so we should just be able to pull that down. I got to disconnect the wiring, and I believe that the 4 mounting bolts for the engine are already loose. And on the other side, our starter is already disconnected. Our engine harness is taken off, and the upper shroud, I think, is just held on. Just tacked on with the little cover there, and then our valve cover here also is loose. So I'm pretty sure this exhaust on here is the one that is separate from the muffler. So once I take this tin off right here, I've just got 2 bolts, lift that tin off. Once we have the engine loose, I think we'll just have the exhaust manifold pipes that go into the muffler non-welded, so we should just be able to lift straight up. But let me get the rest of the stuff disconnected, see what we need to do. I'll get it all prepped and I'll show you guys pulling this engine off, and then we're going to crack into it. All right, and I've got everything prepped on here. The PTO dropped off, the drive pulley, everything was finger loose. There's only a couple threads in the 4 engine bolts, and then just got the fuel line disconnected and that breather hose. And I did tip back on this engine, and you guys can see that's how that comes off. So get you guys set up here. I'm gonna back this up just a little bit farther and we're gonna go ahead and pull this off. All right, easy peasy, right? All right, well, the sun is shining today, so we're going to use as much natural light as we can, because that is the best light. So what I want to do first is I did take off that little upper cover And then we can take off our whole upper shroud because all these bolts were loose. So just a quick glimpse. I don't see anything going on really here up top. But let's go ahead and get these valve covers off. We've got 4 3/8 on each side. I want to see if we dropped push rods or if we've got a maybe valve seat that's migrated. Good gravy. I gotta get something to pry that loose. Alright, so on some of these you'll have the regular gasket, and then on other ones you'll have the sealant. This one has the sealant. I don't want to get in here and ding anything up too bad. I'm just gonna work around the edge here. Let's see if I can't get this broke loose. Alright, got that broke loose, I think. There we go. It looks to be a factory seal job on that. So, I believe this engine does still turn over, but we aren't gonna have, yeah, our cam is gonna be destroyed, so we won't have any movement here. Yeah, see, I'm wondering why this is so tight though, because if our cam was let go, I guess if the cam shaft itself is still intact, we might be pushing on these. So what we can do normally is put enough pressure by hand, check that push rod, let's see if we can drop this one down. Here's our steel. That one looks good. So our push rods look good on here. Just by a quick glimpse on here, I don't see the valve seats seem to be where they need to be. So let's jump over to this other side. I'll pop this one loose and we'll take a look. And then I'll crack the seal on this one too. Honestly, it looks, underneath these valve covers, it looks super clean with the oil, so I don't necessarily think there was a issue with a ton of neglect. So we'll pop these. Yeah, both of these push rods look good. I don't see anything that would tell me that these have migrated. The valve seals on here look good. Everything looks kosher here on the heads. And you know, just depending on what all's going on with this engine, these would be good cylinder heads too, more than likely. So those always come in handy, because a lot of times these heads will have issues, and it's a whole lot cheaper if you got one on hand than trying to buy one. Let's go ahead and tip this thing on its back. We shouldn't have any oil in there. Crank seal is already out, but what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the oil pump cover off, and then I'll grab everything to remove the sump bolts, and we'll see what we got going on this bottom end. Alright, so on the oil pump, I've got a Torx bit. This one I believe is a T30. Get all these cracked loose, knock these out, and then we should be 1/2 inch on the sump bolts. Looks like someone's already put some kind of sealant on these, like a silicone or something. All you should have holding this in is just a O-ring on the outside, which this one's actually stuck to the engine. O-ring here, yeah, somebody's tried to put sealant around it, which this O-ring right here should do all the sealing. You shouldn't have to put any kind of sealant around that. Man, this thing looks super clean though. Like looking in the, I don't know if you guys can see it, I'm trying to get you in a little bit closer, but the filter here on the bottom of the pan actually looks really good. So we can pull out everything from the pump here, and that might be stuck in from the cam. No, there we go. And this drives off from the end of the camshaft. This is what actually turns the pump here. So everything here looks really good. Take a look at this filter. Yeah, that thing is super clean. Yeah, that filter looks really clean. We'll go ahead and take off the sump bolts here. They're all 1/2 inch. Let me make some room here and clean up all these bolts. All right, time for the sump. Some of these weren't even tightened at all. What do we got left? I think that's all of them. I've just got a piece of wood here so I can tap it, not damage the case. All right, here we go. Come on. Still hanging up on the crank. Let me hold the crank from the other side. I think it's because there's some rust on the shaft, so it's holding us up. Come on. Almost there. Man, that thing is on there. It's kind of stuck where the rust was. I can see the end of the cam is broken in half. There we go. All right. Sweet. Let's go ahead and get this thing on its back and take a look. All right, and everything I can tell so far on this bottom end looks incredibly clean. I don't see any more pieces in here other than what came in that bag. Now, as far as the camshaft goes, as long as we can get the camshaft off from those lifters, we are good there. The lobes on here look in really good shape. Let's get all this stuff out of the way here. You just got to take the lifters. I'm going to take those out. And then what I want to do is kind of tilt it, and we'll see how smooth this rolls over now, because we should just be, at this point, just crankshaft and rods and pistons moving. So I honestly think that this engine would be a good candidate to fix. So let's see. I mean, we don't know the compression on it, but judging by how everything looks in here, this is spinning over nice and smooth. I really don't see any wear in here for the most part. I'm just wondering, like, what happened if the governor just broke loose. I'll show you guys where get you in close enough. So this rod right here, this is actually where the governor sits, and then the governor gear, I pulled it off here. So this is where the governor sits, and then your cam, this is locked into your cam when that's in there. So I don't know if the weights, if this thing got over revved, maybe because it had sat for so long, the throttle was stuck wide open, and maybe the governor couldn't compensate in time if it was basically locked the governor out. Sometimes they get gummed up. I've had that problem in the past, and they'll just rev to the moon. The governor can't compensate because the linkage is actually kind of frozen up, and maybe that's what happened. It just let loose, and then the weights took out the camshaft on here. But I do see some high temp RTV homemade gaskets here for the exhaust. Not really a big deal as long as those bolts come out and get new gaskets for that. But overall, I mean, everything else looks great on here. Our oil pump looked good, all the push rods, everything in the bottom end. I think we definitely have a good candidate. Now we'll have to price out to see what a governor and a camshaft costs for this engine, or if I have another engine here that's in rough shape that maybe I have these parts from. So I will have to look around and see what I got. But so far, I was already thinking of what I was going to take off from here and use on other machines, but I don't really want to give up a good engine if this thing is still solid. And I'm feeling pretty good on this engine. Normally when we tear these down, they are completely destroyed. I was checking as well to see where the crankshaft seal is on the bottom of the sump, and everything feels good in there as well. So far it looks like all we're going to need is a camshaft and a governor on here. We're obviously going to need a new seal, gasket, you know, cleaning everything up. But I believe that we're going to be in pretty good shape with this engine. So I think we will do a rebuild or putting this thing back together. I'll show you guys all that, and hopefully we'll have us a nice V-twin engine here and shouldn't have too much money. I think I have a parts engine that we can take at least the cam and the governor out of, but we'll see. I gotta just see what the parts costs are, what I can get from another parts engine, and then we can kind of just go from there. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about, you know, what happened with this engine. I believe that the governor gave out and then that wiped out the camshaft in here, but I still think we're in pretty good shape. And I love hearing from you guys in the comments. Let me know if you want to see this get put back together, and we can find another machine to put this on. I believe we're still going to just move forward with our donor engine that we fixed a while ago for this tractor, but I've got another John Deere. We're going to have some mini bike stuff, more engine content, and plenty more to come. We've got that Skag Zero turn I put in a shorts the other day. So I've got tons of projects, just not enough time. But I appreciate you guys sticking by as always, and all the new subscribers. So on that note, let freedom ring, let those small engines sing. I'll see you all in the next one.